Welcome to the Inner Essence, a space of mindfulness, spiritual awakening, and reconnecting with your true self. Breath, be present, and begin your journey with it.
Since childhood, you were told that effort defines worth, that only those who fight against resistance deserve transformation. This belief, born from Newton's mechanical universe and psychology's obsession with performance, made us engineers of our own exhaustion. We push, fix, and measure, mistaking tension for progress. But there's a silent fracture in this logic. Every time you try to force reality, it mirrors your struggle back to you. What if change isn't conquered but observed into being? What if the real architect of transformation is not effort, but awareness itself, the quiet gaze that shapes the field before a single action is taken? An electron hesitates before choosing a path. It waits, not for command, not for force, but for a gaze. The instant it is seen, its potential collapses into form. That single act of observation defines whether it dances like a wave or lands like a particle. The experiment that revealed this wasn't meant to change philosophy, yet it did. The double-slit test exposed a truth that ancient mystics only intuited. Awareness doesn't stand outside reality. It writes it. Max Planck warned that consciousness is fundamental, that everything we call matter arises from it. Decades later, Amit Goswami echoed the same pulse. The universe behaves as if consciousness were its operating system. These aren't romantic claims. They are cracks in the old map of certainty, the kind that force us to redraw the boundaries between mind and world. The cosmos, it seems, isn't a cold machine obeying equations. It's a field listening to attention. That idea changes everything. It means your gaze is not neutral. The way you look at a moment, a person, or yourself reorganizes the energy around it. Try remembering a day when you entered a room carrying frustration. The air thickened, conversations tightened, and nothing flowed. Then remember another day. Same room, same people. But you arrived calm, coherent. The atmosphere adjusted to you. The field read your frequency. Observation isn't passive sight, it's participation. Every thought, every subtle expectation instructs the fabric of events. The observer's inner tone shapes what the outer world becomes. That's why two people can face the same challenge and walk away with entirely different stories. One perceives proof of limitation, the other proof of possibility. They didn't meet two realities, they sculpted them. The more force you apply to bend reality, the more resistance you create. You become like a swimmer fighting the current, confusing exhaustion for achievement. Yet if you stop thrashing and open your eyes beneath the surface, the current begins to carry you. Observation, in its purest form, is that still awareness that doesn't impose direction but allows alignment. It is creation without struggle. The physics behind it whispers a lesson for the human condition. The field of energy around you, call it life, destiny, probability, remains fluid until you impose a definition through perception. The moment you decide that this is hard or this is impossible, the field agrees and solidifies. But if you enter a situation without judgment, it retains the elasticity of potential. Reality listens to the precision of your attention, not to the noise of your effort. You can test this with something tangible. Picture a conflict that has lingered in your mind. Don't analyze it. Simply observe the sensations that appear in your body. A tightening in the chest, heat in the face, shallow breath. Those are the ripples your observation has been sending into the field. Now soften your awareness around them, as if expanding the frame. Let the breath settle. Feel how the emotional geometry begins to reorganize itself. Nothing external changed, yet the inner measurement of reality shifted. That subtle shift is the invisible turn. It's not mystical. It's measurable in how the body relaxes, in how perception widens, in how intuition becomes audible. Observation creates coherence where control breeds tension. What you witness with clarity transforms without resistance. The world is less a set of objects to be conquered, and more a living equation waiting for calibration through awareness. The quantum field and the human field follow the same grammar. Both respond to presence. Each time you watch something without trying to dominate it, the universe recalibrates itself to that state of seeing. Creation, then, begins not with doing, but with the quality of your gaze. the silent command encoded in consciousness itself. Every act of seeing carries a hidden tension, the assumption that there is a you doing the seeing, and something out there being seen. That division feels natural, yet it's the seed of all inner conflict. Carl Jung hinted that the unconscious is not merely a shadow beneath awareness, but a mirror that reflects the observer's face from within. Krishnamurti went further. The observer is the observed. The thought you're trying to change, the emotion you're trying to fix are not objects separate from you. They are the movements of the same consciousness that believes it must intervene. That illusion is subtle, but powerful. You wake up in the morning and already identify with the character who must improve, perform, heal, or achieve. Every action grows from that root assumption. I am the one who must make this better. Yet the more you strengthen this doer, the more you separate yourself from the field that could harmonize things naturally. The self that strives to awaken keeps the dream alive. It polishes the bars of its own cage. Jung described individuation not as perfecting the persona, but as reconciling it with the deeper totality of the psyche. To observe without judgment is to stop feeding the fragment that calls itself I. This doesn't mean indifference, it means intimacy. You begin to see thoughts as weather passing through awareness, not as declarations of who you are. The moment you stop identifying, observation becomes clean. It stops echoing old noise. Picture anger arising, a sharp pulse in the body, a tightening behind the eyes. Usually you say, I'm angry, and the identification seals the experience into the structure of self. But if you simply witness, anger is arising, the whole event changes texture. The energy is still there, but it no longer owns you. The observer and the observed begin to merge into one transparent field where energy flows instead of looping. The difference is not suppression, it is freedom from participation in the fiction of a fixed self. Krishnamurti once said that the highest form of intelligence is observation without the observer. It sounds paradoxical until you experience it directly. In that state, perception is not filtered through memory or projection. It doesn't interpret, it reveals. You see the movement of thought as you'd watch wind through grass, intimate but impersonal. From that clarity, change happens on its own, because the field is no longer distorted by resistance. The psyche reorganizes according to truth, not effort. The identification with the one who strives is a clever disguise of fear. It believes that without control, chaos will reign. Yet what truly reigns in control is fragmentation, parts of the self competing for dominance, each claiming authority. The I that tries to meditate, to manifest, to evolve, is often the same I that feels unworthy. It builds altars to its own inadequacy. Observation without identity dissolves that architecture. It doesn't fix the structure, it dissolves the need for structure. Try this quietly. Close your eyes and listen to the stream of thoughts for a moment. Don't choose any of them. Just notice the flow. Who is the listener? Where is it located? The instant you look for it, it recedes. What you call I is only another appearance inside awareness. The observer isn't a point in space, it's the space itself. The more you notice that, the lighter your sense of self becomes. It stops being a noun and turns into a verb, observing, unfolding, responding. This understanding transforms the nature of creation. You stop trying to rearrange reality from the outside and begin to perceive from within the movement that creates it. The act of seeing becomes an act of being. Reality shifts because the distinction between seer and seen no longer exists. Every thought, every sensation, every moment of perception becomes part of one continuous field, self-aware and self-correcting. What remains after identification dissolves is simplicity, a quiet intelligence that doesn't need to prove itself. It watches, responds, and rebalances without story. That is where transformation begins to feel effortless, not because nothing happens, but because the one who resists has disappeared. In that stillness, life stops being something to control. It becomes something that recognizes itself through you. A calm lake doesn't try to reflect the sky, it simply does. Its clarity is not an act of effort, but a state of coherence, the perfect alignment between stillness and reception. In that transparency, every cloud, every glimmer of light appears exactly as it is. The same principle governs consciousness. When the observer is internally aligned, mind steady, emotion harmonious, presence undivided, the field mirrors that coherence without delay. Reality stops echoing contradiction and begins to organize itself around the signal of unity. Joe Dispenza often describes coherence as the synchronization between the heart and the brain, but its implications extend beyond biology. Coherence is the frequency of truth, not moral truth, but energetic integrity. When what you think, feel, and embody vibrate in agreement. The universe reads a clear instruction. It no longer receives mixed messages. One moment asking for abundance while secretly fearing loss. One breath affirming peace while the nervous system prepares for war. The field doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your vibration. David Bohm called this alignment the implicate order, the invisible intelligence that organizes the visible world. Incoherence, by contrast, creates interference patterns. Your intention ripples outward, but your doubt collides with it, distorting the wave. The result is delay, confusion, repetition. You call it bad luck or divine testing, but it's simply the physics of divided energy. A scattered observer cannot transmit a unified message to the field. This coherence isn't achieved through discipline. It emerges through honesty. The heart becomes coherent not by controlling emotion, but by ceasing to lie. When you stop pretending that you are calm while burning inside, the dissonance dissolves. The field responds not to perfection, but to authenticity. The moment your inner state and your outer intention tell the same story, energy flows like current through aligned circuits. You feel it instantly. Breath deepens, perception widens, time stretches. The effort of life eases, replaced by a rhythm that seems to move through you instead of against you. Picture a musician tuning an instrument. Each string vibrates independently until the ear detects harmony. Suddenly, the entire instrument resonates as one body of sound. In that moment, music becomes effortless because resistance disappears. Consciousness works the same way. The observer doesn't force harmony. It listens until alignment reveals itself. Once coherence is restored, creation plays itself through you. You can sense coherence through your body before your mind can name it. There is a hum, a quiet equilibrium where the heartbeat and thought pulse in tandem. Action feels light but effective. Intuition becomes directional instead of decorative. From this state, choices no longer arise from fear or obligation, but from resonance. They feel right before they make sense. This is not magical thinking. It's the natural rhythm of an undistorted field. Think of a time when everything unfolded with an ease that logic couldn't explain. The right call, the chance meeting, the timing that felt almost choreographed. That was coherence in motion. You were not lucky, you were aligned. The observer was clear enough to communicate with the field without static. Life seemed to collaborate because, in truth, you had stopped competing with it. Incoherence, on the other hand, breeds friction. The mind demands speed while the heart craves stillness. The body obeys neither, trapped in contradiction. You overthink, overwork, overcorrect, believing that more effort will compensate for less alignment, but incoherent action only multiplies resistance. The field amplifies confusion exactly as clearly as it amplifies peace. The universe doesn't discriminate. It echoes. To return to coherence, begin not by seeking calm, but by noticing dissonance. Observe where your words contradict your emotions, where your goals betray your body's signals. Instead of forcing balance, allow recognition itself to bring the system back to order. Awareness is the tuning fork of the field. It vibrates truth into alignment. The instant your perception stops fighting itself, the field recalibrates. What once felt blocked begins to move, not because you pushed harder, but because you finally stopped fragmenting the signal. This is where true power lives, not in intensity, but in integrity. When you are coherent, creation feels less like effort and more like participation in a vast conversation already unfolding. The field listens, it adjusts, it responds. You begin to live in dialogue with the invisible intelligence that animates all form. And in that dialogue, miracles look ordinary because coherence makes them logical. Pause here. Feel the rhythm of your own breathing. Notice how, in this quiet attention, the mind, the heart, and the body begin to synchronize. That alignment, subtle yet unmistakable, is the creative frequency of the universe flowing through you. You don't have to force life to respond. You only have to stop contradicting it. If this understanding resonates, if you've felt that pulse of coherence within your own experience, share your reflection below. Write, "I live in coherence, and the field responds." And if you want to go deeper into these unseen mechanics of awareness, join as a member of this channel. There we'll explore new forms of content designed not just to be watched, but to be lived. Conversations and practices that help you experience what it means to create from coherence itself. At the edge of every transformation lies a moment that cannot be forced, the quiet threshold between intention and release. Most people stop there, afraid that if they stop controlling, everything will dissolve. Yet that dissolution is precisely where creation begins. Conscious surrender isn't resignation, it's the highest form of participation. It is the moment the observer trusts the field enough to stop manipulating outcomes and allows intelligence to flow through rather than from them. Eckhart Tolle speaks of surrender not as defeat, but as alignment with the greater intelligence moving life forward. Lao Tzu called it Wu Wei, effortless action. The paradox is that what appears passive from the outside is, in essence, the most dynamic state possible. To surrender consciously is to step out of interference and let the natural coherence of the field do what the mind could never engineer. The wave no longer resists the tide. It becomes the movement itself. You can feel this shift in your own body. The shoulders release, the breath deepens, the heartbeat steadies. Every cell seems to exhale. That physiological change is not symbolic, it's evidence. The body understands before the intellect catches up. The instant control loosens. Energy that was trapped in resistance becomes available to the creative flow. You don't lose power. You reclaim the energy once spent maintaining separation. For most, surrender is mistaken for giving up. But to give up is to collapse. To surrender is to merge. One is despair, the other clarity. In giving up, you disconnect from the field. In surrender, you become indistinguishable from it. The difference is awareness. The mind that fears surrender imagines itself as the only pilot. But when you sense that the same intelligence that grows trees and turns galaxies also breathes through you, effort begins to look unnecessary, even arrogant. What could your personal will add to a universe already fluent in creation? Consider a river bending around a stone. It doesn't pause to plan the curve. It doesn't argue with the obstacle. Its nature is to move, and in moving, it finds its way. Conscious surrender is that same movement of intelligence through awareness. You no longer measure success by control, but by harmony. Life stops being a project and becomes an unfolding. There's a quiet revolution that occurs once surrender becomes real. The observer's attention no longer operates from scarcity, but from trust. The need to make things happen dissolves into the understanding that things are happening through you. This is not fatalism. It is intimacy with the field. The moment you stop trying to dominate reality, you begin to sense its rhythm. You start moving in time with a music that has always been playing beneath the noise of effort. Tolle often says that life becomes cooperative the instant you stop arguing with the present moment. Resistance is the argument. The more you insist that reality should be different, the more you feed the version you're trying to escape. But surrender is not indifference, it's precision. It means seeing the moment as it is and without denial, without distortion, and recognizing that your alignment with truth is the only power that changes it. When observation is free from interference, the field reorganizes spontaneously. Try remembering a situation that once felt impossible, where every attempt to fix it made it heavier. Then recall the instant you finally released the struggle, maybe out of exhaustion, maybe out of clarity, and how soon after something shifted on its own. A phone call, a coincidence, a sense of relief with no clear reason. That was the field rewriting reality the moment you stopped rewriting it yourself. Conscious surrender is not the end of action, it is the beginning of effortless direction. It doesn't ask you to withdraw from life, but to meet it without distortion. The observer becomes transparent enough for the intelligence of the field to act unhindered. Creation continues, but the creator disappears, and in that disappearance, everything aligns. The paradox resolves itself. By ceasing to interfere, you become the force that moves worlds. Reality does not yield to effort, it responds to coherence. Surrender is the key that unlocks that response, the gesture that allows the unseen to reveal its design. The moment you stop trying to rewrite life, life begins to write through you, fluently, beautifully, without resistance. Creation has never required effort, only awareness clear enough to see without distortion. The field doesn't wait for struggle, it responds to coherence. Each time you observe without trying to fix, reality reconfigures around that stillness. The world you experience is not something happening to you, but something arising through you. Observation is participation. The moment the observer awakens, the pattern changes and life reveals its hidden symmetry. If this truth resonated with you, leave a sign below. Write, "I observe," and reality responds. Like this video so I know you stayed until the end, and subscribe if you want more journeys like this. Deeper explorations into the quiet science of consciousness and the art of creating reality from awareness itself.